Hey everyone, welcome to a very special episode of Checking In with Jeff Davenport. Imagine, if you will, a beautiful summer day in Arizona, in northern Arizona, and you're going on just a hike, a couple of families, some friends, and you're hiking up this area off adjacent to the Grand Canyon known as Havasupai, where all the Instagram influencers, all those people get these amazing photos, and you're ready to take yours, and then this happens. This video right here is a legit viral video taken by none other than my good friend Sarah Pacheco, as the Pachecos and the Brisenos ended up going on a little camping trip to northern Arizona and encountered this. You can see on Sarah's, this is from YouTube, Sarah's video that she took, and it describes in detail about what happened there. The rushing waters coming right through that canyon in the area of Havasupai. The waters are fierce, they are dangerous, and sadly, lives have been lost, including one, at least that I know of, from this particular flash flood that happened 1 week ago. Welcome again to Checking In with Jeff Davenport here at the Pacheco's house. Thank you so much. Sarah, come on in. Clint Briseno's here as well. And we just wanted to take a seat and talk about this rather harrowing adventure. Made it to the emergency shelter. So that was the final stop. Let's go back to the very beginning. Clint, we were talking about, before we went live here, that the idea was the Pachecos invited you guys on this nice, fun trip where we would just hang out together and it would be a lovely time, right?
Yeah. You know, the process for getting these permits is in February, and the Pachecos picked up 10 permits, I believe, and they had a cancellation, and they were like, "Hey, you interested in going to Havasupai?" So I mean, this is a trip of a lifetime.
Yeah.
I was like, "Yes, absolutely, let's do it." And then they had 2 more cancellations, and my son and my son-in-law were able to grab those permits. And so, yeah, it was supposed to be a great adventure. We all went up on Wednesday and hung out, ready to go, ready to jump off on Thursday morning.
Now let's talk about people who normally go to Havasupai. They obviously don't encounter this. This is not normal. This is not a normal event there.
No.
What is the normal trip? Have you been there before? Was this your first time as well?
It was not. I was the only one who it wasn't my first time. I was there in 2019, and it's usually a beautiful hike. It is hard. You're in the Grand Canyon, just next to the Grand Canyon National Park in Havasupai on tribal lands. And you go down this canyon that leads to the campground, and from there you hike to a series of waterfalls, and it has the signature bright blue water. And you see those pictures on Instagram. They use the picture of Havasupai Falls in particular all over for Arizona tourism. It's a huge destination.
Which is funny because you have to get tickets to go, and it's very limited, the availability and the time that you can go, which is funny that it's a beautiful thing, but very few people end up going.
Yeah, it's limited because, I mean, they can't have that many people down there.
Right.
And it's really popular.
Yeah.
Also, it's not an easy hike. It's 11 miles from the top to the campground. So, and they say that your elevation change is the equivalent of 2 Empire State Buildings.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, you're in the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
So, like, you're doing a dramatic elevation change and hiking 11 miles in the desert, doing that, and then you camp, and it's roughing it. You're roughing it. You're sleeping on the ground. There are toilets and stuff, but you're sleeping on the ground, and then you hike. You know, if you go to the confluence, like the family that was there, or if you go to Beaver Falls, like that's another 13 miles hiking the next day. When you just
I didn't know it was that much further. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
So from the campground to Beaver Falls and back, you're going to be doing, or to the confluence and back, you're going to be doing 13 miles that day.
Wow.
So you've got to be prepared, right?
Yeah.
So that means it is a little bit a smaller community that can go do that.
Yeah. So Clint, as the morning starts, you've never done this before.
No.
You enjoy being with your friends. You're hanging out with them.
Sure.
You wake up that morning. what happens with your family, and which way do they go? How early do you start? What does this day start like?
It's funny. And one of my Facebook posts, we joked about this, the burnt toast theory, and all these things that happen. Okay, our plan, like the whole group's plan, was to jump off at like 4 a.m. because it's hot. And the same way when you go up in elevation, it gets cooler. You go down in elevation, it gets hotter. So the plan was jump off about 4 a.m. But little things happened that kept us from going at 4 a.m. Whether it was we didn't get the permits on time, there was a dead battery in one of the cars. I mean, all these little things, and it was a blessing though, because had we jumped off at 4, we would have been down at the campground set up, and everybody that was down there lost all their gear.
You want to rewind and push play again? That'd be great to get an idea here, because your YouTube video that again has over 40,000 views on TikTok, which is amazing. Congratulations on being a viral sensation, Sarah Pacheco. I'm sitting next to a TikTok superstar, guys. I mean, come on, Sarah Pacheco.
I don't know about that.
Now, okay, starting to rain.
It started to rain, so at that point...
What time of day is this?
This is about... Well, I'll tell you, this is about like 11:45.
Okay.
11:45 in the morning. And I did timestamp this one. This is my sister, and you could hear the thunder so loud. That was 12:54.
Okay.
Or, 11:54.
Okay, so just before noon.
Just before noon, right there. Oops, hold on. How do I get that to go down? Nope, go down. Nope. Somebody smarter than me needs to do this. Okay. So then it starts really pouring.
I mean, if you look at that, push pause real quick. It doesn't look like rain. It looks like rocks falling from the sky. There
was water coming down the walls of the canyon from every angle, and it's pushing mud and rocks and everything down with it. So it's not just rain. You're like we were covered in mud. Like I took 3 or 4 showers. I still found mud in my hair. And we were covered in mud. But so at first we were sheltering from the really hard thunderstorm, thinking we're going to shelter from the rain and it'll pass by. Rain in Arizona passes by.
Sure, of course.
That's what we're thinking.
It always does. That's a monsoon.
Yeah, so we'll wait.
And there you are, covered in mud.
Oh my gosh, when can I get this to work? You see I'm covered in mud, but you can see that's...
Because it's coming off the side of again, you're sheltered, so you're underneath.
Yeah.
You're underneath maybe just a crack in the wall there on the hiking path. This is the hiking path in, right?
That's the hiking path in, and we were in between the tall, narrow walls. But we had climbed up a little bit where there was a little alcove. Okay. And we were sheltering from the rain, but we had gotten off the trail. And right here, and I credit this man with saving our life. A man rode down on his horse. He's one of the native tribal folks, and he told us, "You're not high enough." Wow. He said, "You're not high enough. Get down and around the corner and get to higher ground." And so we did. I mean, we and 2 other hikers that were with us, we climbed down from where we were and then went down and had to get around the corner. And if you see here, I'm trying to show you, we had climbed up about 15 feet higher here around the corner, and this was at 12:11.
Oh my gosh! So you're talking in less than 20 minutes.
So when I was talking to my sister, and I said
at 11:54,
that's 11:54, and then the second one it starts really raining in earnest. It was 12:09.
Oh my gosh!
And then we got around the corner 2 minutes, 12:11. This video is taken at 12:11, so 2 minutes.
And the entire area is just covered in water, and it is coming down hard.
There was a rain gauge on one of the creeks that feeds into the Supai River, and that rain gauge registered a 7-foot increase of water in 15 minutes, and then it blew out. And then the other rain gauge that was down by the confluence, where the Supai feeds into the Colorado, it didn't even register. It just blew out. I mean, the amount of water that was going, I mean, it was just insane how quickly it was. I mean, it went from our feet to our ankles to our knees, where Jackson and I were.
Now, where were you? Where were you as this was going on in this video?
We were past the village. Like I said, we were making pretty good time. My son-in-law, they're down by the campground, by the big fall, and they had sheltered under a tree. I have a picture of that tree. And again, one of the tribal members on a horse came by and told them to get out from where they were to either head to the village or cross the bridge and go to high ground. And thank God they did, because that tree is now laying on its side. I have a picture of it. It's like, and they saw that go down, and that
from
area,
their vantage point,
and where they were actually sheltered under that tree. Again, it's like a 200-year-old cottonwood just thrown down on its side. And we went down to it. There's this 8-foot gorge just cut in where the river just cut a new path through there. So we were actually, I wasn't quite to them. I was about 3/4 of a mile from them, but Jackson and I were on the trail. We had made the first set of falls. And so we were sitting there, and that's when we made the decision to go back to the village, because I didn't have any way to get us out of the rain. Jackson had his emergency poncho on, and I was standing there. I had one more emergency poncho in my bag, and it was like, okay, this is getting... It went from sprinkle to rain to this is a bad situation in about 30, 45 minutes, that quick. And you made a comment, it looked like rocks were falling. Yeah. Jackson and I were standing at a wash that we were cut off now. There was a wall of water came, it busted out a culvert we were about to cross. I mean, it was pretty intense. And we're standing there, and a tribal member comes up and she says, "Hey, did the thunder scare you?" And Jackson and I looked at her like, "What?" And we're like, "No." And she goes, "That wasn't thunder. That's the rocks falling from the cliffs."
Oh my goodness.
It's like, okay.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And so
here, I'll show you. We were still at the second spot. We're about 15 feet higher from where we were. And then the water reached us, and we realized we need to get even higher. This isn't high enough. We've already climbed up 15 feet, and we've got to get higher. And then you could see, and we thought this is a flash flood. And then it turned into that. That's 12:29 p.m.
Oh my goodness! Just like you said, 45 minutes. It's a completely different landscape.
Yeah.
And so we were down there in the corner where you see, and it's covered in water. We were down there.
Wow.
And it's covered in water.
Wow. So you guys, how long did it take you to climb up to that vantage point, this new vantage point?
Another 5 minutes or so.
Oh my goodness.
So I'll say when we were here, this is where we really, I didn't get a video of it, but there was a whole piece of this rock wall that just, you heard a crack like lightning, but it's not, where the piece of the rock wall separated and crashed to the ground. It was like the size of a car, like a giant boulder the size of a car, probably about 100 yards from where we were at up on. And that was when me and my sister looked at each other and we're like, we might not make it. Like, we might not survive this.
Well,
I don't know
especially if there's a car-sized rock that's just coming on your side.
If it comes off on our side, we're done.
Yeah.
Because there was nowhere to go. If you see...
Right. Yeah, that's the answer is, because you say here, you were stuck here for 2 hours.
We were stuck there for more than 2 hours.
Yeah.
And there was nowhere to go.
Right, where are you going to go? What are you going to do?
Wall to wall, the water was probably, at that point, at least 15 feet deep. And if not more, and you saw it was picking up whole boulders, uprooting trees, whatever else was in that water. I mean, we had nowhere else to go, so we just had to sit there and wait and hope and pray that nothing comes off the wall above us that will take us out.
So your point, Clint, where you were with the boys, what's going through your mind at 12:30? I mean, what's happening from your vantage point?
My son and son-in-law, AJ and Dustin, they were down. I knew they were in front of us, and there's a little story to that, but they were down in front of us. We were close to them, but again, I didn't have a way to get us out of the water, out of the rain. And, Jackson's there with me, so it's like, hey, we made that decision. We saw some guys that I thought was them, but it wasn't. I couldn't make them out because it was raining so hard, but I told them, I said, if you guys make the campground, tell them that we went back to the village. And so they ended up doing that. So, we turned around and we started going back. We were 1.25 miles from the village. And that's where the water just started increasing on the road. And I mean, it's just dumping in everywhere. And the analogy that I've heard that makes the most sense is like you're in a fishbowl and the water just kept coming, and you're like, okay. So we got back to a wash that we had crossed 45 minutes earlier, and it was dry when we crossed it. Now there's water in it, and one of the tribal members, thank God, because I'm looking at the water going, okay, it didn't look real deep, but it had current, and I'm going, okay, we could probably cross that. Tribal member comes out, and he tells us, he's like, hey, don't try it, there's a flash flood coming. And he said, if you're going to try it, use the culvert that the kids used to walk to school. And they had a culvert just across the wash, mounted to concrete. And, it'd be a balancing act, but we walked over there with him. He showed us a culvert. And I was about to tell Jackson, like, here's one of my trekking poles, use it for balance, let's get across this. And right then, I mean, it just, I heard a noise. I didn't even talk to Jackson. I just heard a noise. I looked back, and there was just water coming at us. There's 55-gallon drums. There's propane bottles. There's trees. There's debris. I mean, it's all just coming, and it smacked that culvert and ramps over it like you see on videos. And that culvert held for about 2 seconds, and then it just blew out. And we're sitting there, and you could feel the ground just shaking, and it's like, holy crap. And we weren't climbing up the walls like Sarah and her group, but we were standing there, and we backed up from the edge of the water. We're talking to some of the tribal people because their kids had been released from school.
Oh,
so they're looking at their kids on the other side of the wash, going, "Don't try it."
Yeah.
And but I told Jackson, I just looked at the situation. I'm like, okay, if the water keeps coming up, we can go back about 20 feet more, and we'll be right up against the canyon wall, and that's it. We could back up about 20 feet more, maybe gain a foot of elevation, and but that was it. And you're just in it, because now the water from that wash was running down the road, flooding their houses. Those houses down there, when we went back out there, you could see, water had gone 18 inches into the people's homes, and their homes are all built up too. Yeah. But yeah, they had water in all of those.
So by the time the 2 hours ends, 2+ hours while you're just waiting there, how long does it take where the rain stops and then the water slows down? What is that like in between? Because it probably doesn't happen right away. It's not like the rain stops and then the water just stops running. What was that time?
I'd say we waited about 2 hours, maybe a little bit more, and where the rushing water kind of shifted to one side, had slowed enough that it was mostly on one side, so we thought we'd try and make our way to the village that way, because we weren't
to
that
catch up
far.
to them.
Yeah, we weren't that far from the village. We were probably less than a mile, maybe about a mile. We were almost there, and it took us over 2 hours to get like 3/4 of a mile to the village, because we were trying to find our way through the debris, and you would like step on mud that looked solid, and you would sink in like up to your knee, up to your thigh, and then someone would give you their trekking pole and pull you out. Some real like never-ending story. I said the never-ending story is a lot like the never-ending story where we were trying to find our way through, and then you don't know if the ground is stable or not, and you would step and then sink into like as deep as your thighs in thick mud. And like one of the pictures I put, it was full of cactus. I had so many cactus spines in my legs from trying to make it to the village. It was horrible, but you're gonna we're just trying to make it to safety. So if I get full of cactus spines, then I get full of cactus spines.
So this ends up being like Gilligan's Island, the 3-hour tour that turns into a whole 5 seasons of something, just trying to get to the village. Yeah. When you get down to the village, did your cell phones work? Were you able to call or keep in touch? None of that was operational, right?
Well, Jake was in the village. He was in the best place. He and Kiki and our friend Ivan had gone ahead. We called ourselves the slow hikers. We're like, we're going to take pictures. We're going to stop for snacks and take a little video. We were taking our sweet time, and that's how I roll when I hike. I'm a slow hiker. But they wanted to go fast, my 2 younger kids, and then everyone else. So Jake and Kiki, my youngest, and our friend Ivan were in the village, and the villagers were like, no one's leaving. You're all staying right here because it's not safe. And then as the hours went by, and Jake was like, wanted to grab people and lead a search party for us, as we hadn't shown up.
Right.
And they had no way to contact us. They didn't know where we were.
Yeah, Jackson and I ended up, a tribal member came over, and he had a radio, and they didn't have like a search and rescue. They didn't have, they called them rangers, and it was
But
guys
not in the traditional sense that we think of.
No, these were guys in jeans and a t-shirt, and they had a radio.
Wow.
And those were their rangers. But I tell you, they did a phenomenal job. One of them came over and told us that we needed to go with him, and so we ended up crossing the wash after. I mean, we waited forever for it to go down, and it was still running when we went through up to our calves. But we got through it and got into the village, and then they took us to the visitor center. And talking to different people there, then we found out some people that we had talked to earlier told us, "Hey, we think there's some of your party over at the medical place." And that's when we went over and we saw Kiki, Jake, and Ivan. And then a little while after that, it was hard to just sort of sit there, you're wet and stuff. So I got up and I went out on the street, and I saw AJ coming around the corner. And so him and Dustin had made it back to the village because, again, they were telling everybody that was down where they were at to get out of there. And, they got some pretty good footage, and they got some really good pictures down there of where they were. And, that whole tree and everything else just knocked down. But they opened up the cafeteria. And in the cafeteria, then they let us use, they gave us a Wi-Fi password.
Okay.
But we were all sitting in there, now AJ, Dustin, Jake, Ivan, Kiki, Jackson, myself, we're all sitting in there, and it's like, where the hell is Sarah? Where is Sarah and the girls? Where are they? And but again, that you couldn't leave, and it wouldn't.
And it was nice of them to make you purchase something before letting you use their Wi-Fi. That was very nice of them.
No, we didn't.
Yeah, I was gonna say no. They did. They were very, very gracious.
No, I know. It sounds like an amazing.
The principal of that school, I mean, she stuck her neck out and allowed us to be in that cafeteria. That's where probably at least 100 and some of us spent the first night in the cafeteria. It was uncomfortable, but we were out of the rain.
120 strangers sleeping like sardine cans on a cafeteria floor.
Yeah.
On the cafeteria lunch tables, under the tables, next to the
and you have to understand that this village is tiny. They're not used to having that many people in town, not anywhere close. And that was when we were there, and this is before you guys had come in and just taken stock. I mean, AJ, Dustin, and I, we had our packs, so we had a lot of our supplies and a lot of our food that we had planned to have down there. But I told Jake, I said, hey, all these people come in the town, and there's no way out. Like, we need to get to the little store that they have there and buy some food, buy some stuff, so we can make sure everybody in our party has at least something to eat. And because who knows how long you're going to be down there,
right.
So yeah, we did that. And but yeah, the tribe, I mean, they came up big. I mean, and everybody down in that village, I'll tell you, for the time that we were down there, and we were the second to the last group to leave, I give them a lot of credit, because they made sure we had something to eat for breakfast. They made sure we had snacks. They made sure we had something to eat for dinner.
They kept bringing in water.
Yeah,
for everybody.
I mean, and you start thinking about it, it doesn't sound like a big deal, but when you're not expecting it, and now you're making biscuits and gravy for 200 people that you didn't expect, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
200 sandwiches for people you didn't expect. That's a big deal. That's a lot of bread. That's a lot of supplies. And the only way they get supplies down there is by mule or helicopter. That's it.
So when you caught up to them, when obviously there was no cell phone communication to you finally get there, and you're part of the party.
Yeah.
What is that reunion like when you end up seeing?
It was a little bit chaos, but yeah, it was, I think, relief. For everyone, we were relieved to find our family all there waiting for us. We knew they were worried about us, but at least they were all there, and we knew that they were there. And
we got on the screensaver mode.
I know. Sorry. But it just it's gonna do it.
We'll skip in 10. That's all right.
Okay. Yeah, but we were just relieved to see each other, and then it was a waiting game of. Yeah. They have 200 people there that they have to get, and the only way to get them out is by helicopter. And helicopters, the tribe helicopter fits like 3 people.
Go and rewind again one more time, and we'll have it playing in the background while we're talking about this. So, So again, the option was going to be once you were all together, the party was all together. Once you were all there, after the fact, the next day, the option of getting out is.
Yeah, the option of getting out is the help. No one's allowed to hike out. The trail that we were hiking in caved in, so like it's
gone.
It's gone. To reopen the trail into Havasupai Village, like they're gonna have to dynamite. Like it is totally caved in. There's no way.
Part of that trail, they call it the ladders, and it's because up till 1940 you had to use rope and ladder to get down there. They couldn't take mules through there. They couldn't take, or people could go through there with ropes and ladders. So they call that section the ladders. That section that they had fixed in 1940 and it held till this past week is gone. And that's what people would say, like, oh, we could hike up. No, you cannot scale a 30, 40-foot cliff without climbing gear. You just can't do it. And if you try to go to the sides, they're 200-foot cliffs.
Right.
You're not getting out of there. And so yeah, the option was helicopters. And the company that the tribe contracts with, Air West, they had 2 helicopters, and one of them went down. Well, didn't go down. It broke down.
Okay,
I shouldn't say
right,
went down. It broke down.
Okay.
And it was funny because the aviation folks that were in our group, Jake and my son-in-law Dustin, when the helicopter, they called it a flame out on the engine. They're like, oh, that's not good.
They just knew,
So then it was on that Thursday, because they were getting people out of there on Thursday, but it was very chaotic. There was no rhyme or reason to it. Nobody really had a good system on it. I mean, and you still had folks that were leaving and coming in from the tribe, and they have priority, but they were like coming in from visiting or going out to go shopping, and you're like, this should be a priority to get these 200 people out of here.
Yeah.
And then so that you don't have to take care of us anymore.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
So we're not a burden on them.
Yeah.
That is the big thing. And they were starting to run again, just bringing out cases of water to people. For 200 extra people, you start burning through a lot of water.
Right.
And
at first it was like, it's the water supply. The village water supply is not going to be safe after a flood.
Oh gosh, yeah, I didn't even think about that side of it. So you need bottled water.
You have to have bottled water because it's not safe to use the faucet water anymore, and it's not safe for any of the villagers either.
Right.
I drank some. I didn't think about
that.
that.
Of course you did.
I didn't think about that.
Of course you did. Well, you look at a situation like this. We'll wrap it up, and we can sit here all day. You guys need to go and check out the YouTube video. Todd will post a link to it in the post description. And then, of course, if you want to follow Sarah on TikTok, what is your TikTok, Sarah? Then you'll be posting, because you're going to be a storm chaser now, and go do this for a living, from what we discussed before we went on the air.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Like I got all these new people followed my TikTok because I had that one viral video. I was like, well, I don't post videos ever, so I don't know.
I hope they like book reviews.
Yeah, what are you going to expect from me? Not much, because I'm not a video producer here.
When you go through an ordeal like that, and when we get to that last photo of the group coming out safe, obviously that was the next day, and you guys or was it 2 days?
It's 2 days.
2 days. Okay, so 2 days. Mm-hmm. So this really is a Gilligan's Island thing. I mean, it was a 3-hour tour that turned into 48 hours.
Yeah.
And making it through something like this, did you get word of any fatalities while you were there? Or?
Not while we were there. Okay. We knew people were missing, and like the hikers that were with us, their friend had gone back to look for them. So the flood started, but the bridge into the village hadn't been taken out yet. And so he had crossed the bridge and was like trying to find them. And he got caught somewhere else in the canyon. He ended up like clinging to a tree for a couple hours. And then he got to higher ground.
Pause here. I want to talk about this photo.
He ended up clinging to a tree, and then he had to stay the night in the canyon. There were several hikers, not just him, but that ended up staying the whole night in the canyon wherever they were, because they couldn't get around the debris, the rushing water, the mud, and everything. And so the second day that we were there, I mean, we saw a lot of other hikers like holding, have you seen this person? Have you seen this person? Have you seen this person? Because there were still a lot of missing people. It wasn't just one person missing. There was a lot of people missing, and only people with them would have known where they were. And then sometimes those people who were with them were also missing. So the tribe was trying to get accountability. They had the list of like, these are all the permits, and we're trying to find out if this person is here. And that part was chaotic because they didn't know who is missing, who's not missing, where are they. And then some people, like we saw our friends, their hiker that had been lost up the canyon come into town while we were out there, and the whole crowd just cheered for him because he came into town out of the blue,
out of nowhere.
And he had stayed up there all night because there was a second flood around 5 p.m.
Okay.
So we had started to make our way when the sun came out, trying to get around where there was still rushing water and through the debris, and we got there. And luckily, because it had started to rain, by the time we were getting back into the village, it was after 5 for us. And we were like, if we don't get to the village, it's going to be dark and we won't be able to make it.
Right.
And we got to the village and another flood came through, like right after.
Man.
So that it wasn't just one flood. So then people who were still trying to make their way had to get to higher ground. Again, and then they had to stay the night. Yeah. Wherever they were, like crouched. These one hikers I met, like got into a crevice in the canyon and just slept in this crevice of the canyon. And they just stayed there.
Yeah, that was it was a little unsettling, because they were running helicopters. And you heard people talking about that the helicopter pilots could see the other flood coming towards.
Because they're up high enough.
They could see the water coming from another direction. You're just like, well, I mean, you're just like, well, at least we were at the village. Yeah. But you're thinking about the other folks. But when you're in it, I'd like to tell you that I was thinking about like AJ and you guys But when we were in it, when it was happening, I was thinking, keep Jackson safe, keep me safe, but when
I'm glad for that. That's my son. But
when you get back to the village and you're sitting there, and now you're going, okay, where's everybody at in our party? Where's everybody at in our party? And you are relieved to see them. You are relieved to see them, come around the corner, and you're like, okay, Because once we were in the village, it's like, okay, we're safe. We have food, shelter, water. We're good to go.
Yeah. So, getting to this point right here, showered up, cleaned up, the helicopter in the background, you see it right there on the screen. What does going through an ordeal like this, and again, knowing that at least one life was lost, people missing, let's start with you, Clint. What does this tell you about yourself? What did you learn about yourself going through this kind of situation?
I was just very thankful that we all made it out. That's a big thing. And I get teased sometimes by some of my friends. They'll say, Clint, you're a Boy Scout, you're a Boy Scout, you're a Boy Scout. But you go through all that preparation and it's just from being out doing different stuff outdoors. But in our duffel bag, for example, all my clothes that I put in the duffel bag that went on a mule, I had in dry bags just in case. Wow. So, you look back on it and you go, okay, all this extra preparation and thinking forward, it actually pays off because, there was dry clothes. But yeah, I was thankful that we all made it out of there. It's an adventure. I mean, it's part of me is like, if we had just gone camping down there, we wouldn't be here talking to you guys.
Yeah. Sarah, what did you learn about yourself going through a situation like this where you see literally a massive act of God coming right down this canyon where you were just walking and you have to get up higher and higher, you go through this ordeal, you make it to that photo right there. What did that Sarah in this photo learn about herself through that situation?
I think part of it, one thing I learned just for preparedness is it's more important to get to high ground than to shelter from the elements. Because when we climbed up to the last spot, and even we kept trying to shelter under outcroppings of rocks, and then we realized we had to get higher and higher. And the last spot we ended up in for several hours, we had no shelter of any kind. We were totally exposed. It started to hail. It was pouring. There's lightning, thunder, and rocks falling. But we weren't down in the rushing water. So it was more important to be that start training, you're in a canyon, get higher, even if you're getting hail all over you. The other was like calming my daughters who they were worried about our family, and they were, what about them? What if they're worried about us? What if, and it's like, we have to focus on us getting out of this right now. And we have to trust our family that they are smart enough to know how to get out. They are smart enough to get to safety, and they have to trust us that we can do the same. And that's, you know, I never, it's bad, I never worried for my husband. He's a mountain man. He knew what he was doing. I knew that he would keep my 2 other kids safe, and I hope that he got worried because we didn't show up and it was starting to get dark, and we were the last ones out of the canyon that night. No one else came. We were the last ones in the shelter that night, and everyone else who got there was, you know, had to make their way the next day. So.
One thing, Jeff, and I, you know, when you ask like what, you know, just some of the reflection is when you're there, and this is something that was impactful to me. It's no matter how much stuff you've done in the outdoors, no matter what your experiences have been, you realize how insignificant, how tiny you are compared to Mother Nature and her force and her fury, and just, you know, when you're there, and I mean it just, there's nothing you can do. Yeah. There is just nothing you can do. You're not going to be able to do anything when there's a 7-foot wall of water coming at you. Get out of the way. Yeah. And because you're just a little speck there, you know. Yep. And
part of the debris, basically.
You're part of the debris. That's exactly it. And that was impactful to me, because I was thinking that, like, you know, you're just in it, you know, and that's it.
Well, this was an amazing adventure, and, you know, thank you for sharing it with us.
We got a Blackhawk ride, man.
Yeah. Hey, how cool is that, huh? I mean, not every day you get to go ride a Blackhawk.
I'll tell you, and you know, Jake, he stood in line there. You had to stay in the line to get up for the helicopters and everything else, but there was so many people cluttered around there. So Jake was the one from our group who went over there and stood in that line. And then eventually he's ending up with the clipboard. Yeah. And now I'm over there. Yeah. Writing everyone's names. So for the civilian, or for the Air West helicopters, and then it's like, and people are getting testy at this point.
Sure.
And so now I'm over there helping Jake, and then it was an experience, because when the National Guard was finally called in, after that was approved and everything else, and they came in, and you know, Jake and I were there loading. You know, I say, you know, we got 100 people out of there. I mean, we were loading them on there. There's extra bags that had come down finally from the mules, and you know, I looked at this pile of bags. I'm like, what is all this stuff? And the tribal council says, oh, those are bags that have come in. I'm like, that all has to go up. Yeah. So we're coordinating, you know, getting everybody onto the Blackhawk, getting all that extra gear out of there, and we got 4 groups out the first night, and then 5 groups out the next day.
Yeah. Well, and the National Guard was like, we didn't expect everyone to be so organized.
Yeah. Well, when you got the Boy Scout, and
you got Boy Scout, you got Jake the Mountain Man.
Exactly, the Mountain Man planning everything.
Yeah, they lined everyone up. They said, you're in Group A, Group B, Group
That's
C.
It.
Like, this is how many people. I mean, we want 100% accountability.
Yeah, there was no questions. Here's some extra bags. Take them with you when you go.
Yeah. I can't even imagine. You know, I mean, even watching this, you just like we always say that when you're watching something on your cell phone, watching something on a tablet, watching something on a laptop, even watching something on a very large screen television, it still does not encompass what it must have been like to see that with your own eyes, to watch that entire canyon just completely come apart with car-sized rocks falling on you, and not that one, but but I mean, looking at this ordeal, I can't thank you enough for sharing this with us and letting us be a part of this adventure here. Yeah, it's okay. We just got
It just
Credit one, but brought to you by Credit No. But we'll get going here. We just don't want to take up too much more of your time, but we wanted to get an idea of what this was like. And thank you so much for sharing this with us. And again, these are people in our community who, if you don't know these people, then you're not from Sierra Vista. You do not know Sierra Vista at all. And I'm fortunate enough to call them both my friends more than anything. And to have made it through this, I'm glad you guys did beyond words. And I know everybody else here watching is feeling the same way. Thank you for sharing this with us. Thank you for opening up your home, Sarah, that we could come and see this. And yeah, always, what's the Boy Scout marching song? Be prepared.
Yeah.
just like Clint. If you're going hiking up in Havasupai, these are the folks to talk to before you go, and you can get with them. And again, go visit Sarah's YouTube video that you can see. You can watch it a million times and understand what that was actually like. Just put yourself in these shoes in mud all the way up to your hips as you're trying to march on out of there. It's absolutely incredible. We love you guys so much, and thank you for sharing this time with us. And so glad that we can have this time because of surviving something that, sadly enough, at least one person did not. So glad you guys are here. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the family of the
Chenoa.
people who lost,
Chenoa Nickerson.
Who lost their lives. We think of their family during this time. But thank you for spending this time with us. Thank you for watching this episode of Checking In with Jeff Davenport. Please share the video around, tag your friends, and let them see what this ordeal was like. And definitely go check out Sarah's, the new TikTok influencer extraordinaire right here, Sarah Pacheco, her TikTok, and then go see that YouTube video. It's something absolutely amazing. Love you guys. Thanks so much.
All right,
we'll check in with you again later on.